Good evening and welcome. Broadsheet Radio, your number one business radio, have always updated you, educated you, brought to bear on everything that has to do with investment. The Nigerian macro and microeconomic system, it's the larger part of the investment. And we have experienced a new regime in Nigeria in the last 1 year, precisely on the 29th of May 2023. Bola Ahmed Tinubu was sworn in as the president of Nigeria, marking 25 years of unbroken civilian rule, which we have never had before. It's a celebration of a sort, and some of us are happy for it. We have not had fellow countrymen for a long period, and we're happy. Because every time you hear that is a drawback. Therefore, we celebrate the independence and the civilian regime that we have had unbroken for 25 years with Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a president, the fourth of that in that line since General Obasanjo came in as the president after taking over from the military. But it is also our practice to assess regimes from the time General Obasanjo served for 8 years and handed over to Jonathan. Jonathan served and handed over to Buhari, and Buhari now to Tinubu. We have each time assessed their performance. Of course, the new president have only been there for 1 year, and you will say, is 1 year long enough to assess? Yes, we can assess even in a month. We can assess in 6 months. We can assess in a quarter. But 1 year seems to me a milestone to take for assessment. And we will do some fast assessment of this regime since Bola Ahmed Tinubu became the president of Nigeria. What has changed? Using only parameters and indices set, we will look at indices as they are presented, compare his regime at the end of Buhari's regime to the 1 year in office, and we'll be using indices that are very popular. Of course, one thing you can't take away from this president is that this president is not afraid to take decisions. And he had taken decisions from the very day he was sworn in. He said himself that he will hit the ground running, and exactly that. He removed the subsidy on fuel and quickly also floated the naira.
Subsidy. Unfortunate. The budget that I've glimpsed before I assumed office and what I've heard is that no provision is there for fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy is gone.
Yes, it had adverse effects. The nation felt it. Inflation went up. But some of us feel that certain of such decisions are necessary. The only thing that we may differ on is, shouldn't there have been some cushioning effect, a preparation for it? Was it necessary to make that announcement on the very day the president was sworn in? Couldn't there have been arrangements to cushion the effect of all those things? But that is now gone by. So let's look at the effect of some of those things, decisions that were taken in the 1 year administration of this government. Number one, the gross domestic product at the point of his coming in was about 2.51%. And now it's about, I'm taking it from the exact 1 year, 29th of May 2024. We have it at 2.98, which is a growth, which was good. And we recognize that. Next indices that is of interest to us is inflation. Inflation at the point of its coming in was 22.41%. And inflation at the point we are measuring is 33.69, which means inflation actually went up. And of course, it will show on the goods and services as we have them. A lot of things, consumer price inflation particularly tells on the goods in the market. Things that we used to buy cheaper, went up high. That's what we experienced concerning inflation. And of course, next one is MPR. At the point of his coming in, MPR was 18.5%. And at the point we are measuring, 1 year after, it became 26.25%. MPR is important. It measures the affordability of capital in the market. Now, the next indices of interest here is maximum lending rate. Maximum lending rate at that time of his coming in was 28.31, became 29.49, which is a marginal increase over the period, but it has a telling effect on all other things. And of course, the next, as you will see, is exchange rate. The official exchange rate at the point that Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed office was about 464 official. There were two rates, more than two. In short, somebody said there were as many as 6 under Buhari, because the exchange rate for Hajj is different from the exchange rate for government business, is different for exchange rate for things that are approved for importation and all what have you. But this president came in and said he wants to unify the exchange rates, that all of them could be one, which is a good one, But look at the effects. As at that time, 464, and at that same time, the exchange rate official was 1339. Now, the next thing was exchange rate as at the parallel markets, the one you call black market. At that time, it was 763 naira per dollar. And at the point in question, at 1 year after, it became 1,510. In actual sense, in February, sometime in February, it hit as high as 1,900 and began to adjust to where we are and where it was then. The next important thing is external reserves. Our external reserve at that time, at the point of his coming in, was 35.9 billion. It was depleted to 32.6 billion. There were a lot of attacks on the reserve, and it dropped to 32.6 billion as at the point 1 year after. And of course, the next thing is public debt. Public debt, at the point of the president's coming in on the 1 year before, it was 87.3 trillion. And as the point we are measuring, it became 97.3 trillion. There was an increase in public debt. And of course, it's understandable because a lot of projects have been taken in by the government. So many of them are capital intensive. And of course, government borrowing increased over the period. So public debt went up. Food inflation, consumer price inflation rate was 24.61 at the point he came in 2023. 1 year later, in 2024, same period, same time, it became 40.53%. Oh, it's almost a double. And that's why things are so costly. Things are really costly. Sometimes I wonder how certain people manage to live their life in the Nigeria of today. Staple foods like gari and all what have you, the prices are off the roof. Well, maybe it's going to force us to go back to the farm, and we will consider it. Average diesel price, as at the time of his coming in, was 842 naira 25 kobo. And at the point we are measuring, it was 1,415, depending on where you are buying from. But that's an average price. That again went up. One good news was that the Nigerian All Share Index, the barometer for measuring the economy as far as we are concerned in the capital market, that one recorded a green zone. At the point of his coming in, it was 52,973.8. And then at the point that we are measuring, it was 98,383.04. And it was a positive sign. Somebody asked me, why is it not mirroring the economy? Why would every other indices, or why not most of the indices be negative and the all-share index is positive? The answer I have for you is that the all-share index is a barometer of the economy. It seems to me, by my interpretation, that it is a sign of great things to come. Yes, a sign of great things to come. We are not political here. We want to see it as it is. If it is the barometer of the economy, it's giving us an indication of what is expected in front. And some of us believe that this economy will get better with time. And of course, the last of them here is average cost of electricity. Oh, electricity tariff at the point of President Tinubu coming in was 66 naira per unit. And as we speak, A zone 225. It went up. Some of us cried because it seems to be one thing that was being heavily subsidized by the government, and the common man was benefiting from it. But the government wants to remove hands completely and subsidy, remove all the subsidy that they have put in. And they graded and gave us different zones, grade A zone, grade 2, grade 3, and what have you, and increased it. So this is what we may call the scorecard, if you would like to call it the report card that we used to have like a school. This man, the president, have ruled Nigeria for 1 year. You want to assess him with these parameters, I will leave them for you. I have highlighted them. I've also highlighted the ones he had done well and the ones that he didn't do well. But I am of the opinion that in the next 365 calendar days that we will assess him again, a lot of these indices will improve. Thank you very much. Visit again and see how we have fared on this. Thank you.